Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all on another Friday afternoon. I hope you guys are doing well here today. We're back with our Gameday flights. This is Fiber Strike 95. I hope you're all doing well. Again, we're going to be flying here for our next Gameday flight. We're actually here in the southern half of France, located in the foothills of the Pyrenees mountain range. But today we're going to be covering one of the most important matchups in Spain, actually, today. More specifically, the Basque Derby today. That's because today is, well, a rivalry matchup between the two biggest clubs in the Basque region. We have Real Sociedad taking on Athletic Club. Definitely a huge game with lots of implications um, for this region. See, this rivalry is more than just on the pitch. This rivalry is very well known for their passionate fans as well as their local talent and the unique Basque identity that really sets them apart compared to other clubs in Spain. So this should be a pretty good matchup here this weekend for sure. So I hope you're all doing well today. Happy Friday, and of course, happy Halloween to everyone watching. I hope you all have some really good time in Halloween, dress up in costumes and getting candy and such. So I hope you guys have a great Halloween for you guys. So before we get started, I do want to go talk about our flight plan this morning and where we're going to be going this afternoon. So here is our nav map for today. We start here at Lourdes Pyrenees Airport, Lima Foxtrot Bravo Tango. So we'll take off from here. We'll be flying around the foothills of the Pyrenees. We'll be flying around this area. We're going to go with 6,500 feet. Check out the foothills of the Pyrenees for a bit as we head towards our first stop at Pamplona. Of course, we visited there during our All Country series when we went to Andorra. But this city, known for the running the bulls, we'll fly to Pamplona in Navarra. Then we'll go check out Navarra Arena at Estadio El Sadar, home of CA Osasuna, the biggest club in this province, the region of Navarra. And then we'll land here at Pamplona Airport. Lima Echo Papa Papa. Then for leg number two, be quite a bit shorter, but we'll fly from Pamplona. We'll fly west over to one of the cities in the Basque region at Vitoria-Gasteiz. We'll check out downtown. We'll also fly over the Mendizorro Tazaco Estadiada, home of Deportivo Alaves, another club in this area of La Liga this season. We'll check out that. And then we'll land at Vitoria-Gasteiz Airport for Nota Lima Echo Victor Tango. For our final leg, we'll fly into the heart of the Basque Country. We'll, of course, fly to Bilbao. Of course, if you guys aren't aware about Bilbao, this is the home of Athletic Club. They play at one of the best stadiums in Europe, Dan Mames. Beautiful stadium, state-of-the-art facility. So we'll fly all across Bilbao. We'll do a flyover of the city. And from there, we'll head over to Guernica, where it was well known for the Spanish Civil War. This area was actually bombed during the Spanish Civil War. And from there, we'll fly over to Little Ibar, check to the Grupa Football Zelia, home of SD Ibar. Pretty small club, but they actually made it to the top flight of Spain. Then from there, we'll head up to the coast of northern Spain to Donostia San Sebastian, a beautiful city in northern Spain, beautiful beaches. And then, of course, we'll visit Real Sociedad at the Real Arena, also known as the Aneta Arena. Then we'll go ahead east, and we'll make our final stop at San Sebastian Airport, Lima Echo Sierra Oscar. So this should be an absolutely gorgeous flight today. Some really beautiful GA scenery all across the board. So I'm going to go say hello to everyone in chat. Good to see all the people lurking. I hope you're all having a good, happy week. So, of course, we got our Cessna 172 today. I thought it's not a super fast plane, but I think this would be perfect for today's flight. So, before you ask, I wasn't expecting the World Series to be that way. the reason I picked this flight today was because this was GA friendly, so I had to do that. Secondly, I wasn't sure if the World Series was going to last this long. In fact, this could end tonight. I'll talk more about when we dive for it. So let's go ahead and get this prepared and get ready to fly. Let's see how much fuel we need. Fuel, I'm gonna make it safe. I'm gonna put this up 75%. Load immediately. We're gonna go ahead and activities. We're gonna turn on our alternator and battery. Bless you. Bless you guys. So I hope you guys have a good week, of course. Got some pretty big stuff going on this week. I did post you guys, by the way, in the Discord. Here's the exclamation point for our Discord this morning. So, for Discord information this week, if you want to check out the Discord, here's the link. But I did post in our game day thing. We had a video from La Liga itself, from the La Liga channel, talking about the Bass Derby for a bit from a fan's point of view of this derby. But it's a very important matchup here. So very big stuff going on as well. We also have our Sunday stream coming up. That being is that our Sunday series will be covering we also have our Sunday stream as well. And that being our Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado. Should be an absolutely gorgeous flight. So should be a gorgeous flight in Colorado. I changed a bit of the flight plan for that one, actually. But it should be an absolutely gorgeous flight in Colorado Sunday. So we're gonna have some great flying, of course. So my flight plan for this one basically falls around the greater Basque region of Spain, Basque country, which is the historic home of the Basque people of a lot of their ancestry from all those listed. So in the taxi, if you guys want to join along with us, we're in the Southeast Asian server. Here's the server, exclamation point server. Here's the route for today's stream, of course. Well, don't make the mistake I did. Let's go ahead and get ready to get this going. Go. A beautiful flight in the Pyrenees. Background, these mountains are. Did a flight over the Pyrenees a while back. Absolutely gorgeous area of this part of Europe. We say goodbye to Lord. We say goodbye to Lima Foxtrot Bravo Tango, and we're gonna say hello. Um, Camp Lota, first stop. We'll be climbing up. We're going to climb up to 6,500 feet for our first leg. Is 6,500. So that is where we're going to be climbing this morning for our first leg. That is the highest altitude of any of the legs. The rest, you don't have to fly too high above it. So I hope you guys have a great plans this weekend, of course. So I want to briefly, once we get to 6,500 feet, we'll talk about the Bass Derby for a bit. So this weekend, of course, for other content creators, Murph's gonna be back on later today. Murphy's gonna be doing his Friday stream um, here, and that would be his flight in Romania, which really cool country. Romania is really neat. He's gonna fly around where Dracula's from, Bran Castle, which should be a really cool flight into Romania, the Carpathian. Be a gorgeous flight. Then Allison's gonna be back on tomorrow. Allie's a good friend of mine. Her shout out. Shout out to Allie. She's gonna be doing another leg of her Jennifer Murray series. Going from Los Angeles and Zip Purdy Field, she's flying her R66 helicopter to Blythe in Eloy Municipal in Arizona. So continuing on that series, which is definitely really cool. So definitely some really cool stuff going on this weekend, of course. So shout out for Allison. I think the t- I think the time has changed in those in the UK, but not in the United States. I guess November 2nd will be where daylight savings time is. Will be daylight savings. So I think the time's gonna have to be. I know it's already all up and such. Definitely climbing very, very. So we're gonna go ahead and climb up to around 6,500 feet. So I want to go ahead and start talking a little bit about the Bass Derby a bit. This is this week's game day flight. We'll be covering the Bass Derby, of course. One thing. The Bass Derby. I just wanted to adjust this a bit. So my plans this weekend, of course, after the stream, I have a. So we're going to be climbing up to 6,500. Look at the scenery out here to our left. So yeah, there's the Pyrenees to our left. Be an absolutely gorgeous view. Pyrenees. Of course, the tallest point in the Pyrenees, I believe, is Mount Perdido, is the tallest peak in the Pyrenees. Tallest point. But the Pyrenees, we did a fly over, absolutely gorgeous region. If we ever did a European park series like the one we're doing here in the States, I'm definitely doing the Pyrenees National Park. Fly and land on some of the peaks. Should be really cool. So that is what we're going to probably be doing here too. So I hope you guys all have a good week. So one of the really cool things about flight sim, of course, there's been a lot. So we got some really cool stuff going on week of course. Let's go ahead and get this notes right. So this is the Bass Derby, everyone. So if you don't know about this matchup, of course, if you know anything about football, but more specifically that of Spanish football, this is actually one of the big derby matchups in Spanish football. This derby represents the name of the local derby between Real Sociedad and an athletic club. Some people call it Athletic Bilbao, but their official title is Athletic Club. I'm going to refer to them as Athletic Club because that is what they like. But this rivalry is pretty special because it embodies the neighbor intercity rivalries between the cities of Bilbao and Donostia and San Sebastian, which is the referencing of their provinces in the Basque Country. Also referred to as the Derby, as it references the highway that connects both these cities. But the one thing I can definitely tell you about these clubs is definitely the fact is that these clubs have a lot of local heritage. They're very proud of their Basque identity and very proud of their tradition. So that is something very important to keep in mind about this derby. Is this isn't just for La Liga bragging rights. Not like El Clasico where it's all about La Liga bragging rights. This is more of a local game between local communities of players in the Basque region. Pretty important. Now, a bit of a background on this year's matchup, by the way, what's going to be coming up this Sunday. Athletic Club and Real Sociedad are two opposite ends of the table this year. What I mean is Athletic Club here, and I'm going to look at the table. So here's our standings this year. I have the La Liga website coming up. So here it is. So Athletic Club are ninth in the table with 14 points. They're not having a bad start of the year. It's just they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. Athletic Club definitely have been going through quite a bit of stuff going on. However, Sociedad this year, they started the year pretty rough. They're 17th in the table, and they're lucky to avoid relegation. They're actually tied at the same points as Levante, Mallorca, and relegation zone Valencia. The only reason they're not below is because of the goal differential and head-to-head. That being said, Real Sociedad are not having a good. That being said, they have a chance of redemption when they get to play Athletic Club at home. This is a pretty big matchup, and it's the biggest matchup for the year for Real Sociedad. As for why I think Real Sociedad are struggling, it's just they lost some really big key players this summer, and it really hurts them quite a bit. They don't buy a lot of players, they develop a lot of their players from their academy. So that's probably why Sociedad have been struggling. Maybe they turn things around. So one interesting thing and one interesting background about the Basque Derby and background of this derby first played all the way back in April 1909 and has attracted a lot of local football fans since. and they are the two largest football clubs in the Basque Country and have stayed in the top division of Spain for longer than most clubs and have won several trophies in the last 100 years. Of course, the difference between Real Sociedad and Athletic Club, as for Real Sociedad, they've been through a few relegations. They've been they've been playing um they've been playing in 79 seasons of La Liga currently. In fact, as of this year, Real Sociedad have officially played in their 79th season in Liga. They have been relegated a few times, and in fact, they spent 6 seasons in the second division of Spain. Their last stint in the second division of Spain came all the way in 2010. Real Sociedad has stayed out of the relegation since. Athletic Club, on the other hand, are very special because Athletic Club are only one of 3 Spanish clubs to have never been relegated at all, which is pretty insane considering the other 2 clubs that have never been relegated: Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. And those are the 2 biggest football clubs, one of the 2 biggest in the world. So that makes Athletic Club's achievement even better. Of course, one interesting thing about the Basque Derby, of course, their glory days were in recent memory was the 1980s, winning several trophies, and both of them used only local players too. We'll talk more about that when we get there. Of course, one interesting other detail is that in this derby, supporters of both clubs mix in and around the stadiums on game day, which is pretty unusual for a local derby. And the reason I say that's pretty unusual for local games is because, well, there have been some really bitter local derbies in Spain that can get quite bitter. Of course, the Madrid derby between Real Madrid and Atletico, those get extremely bitter pretty quickly. Of course, the Barcelona derby between Espanyol and FC Barcelona is also pretty bitter too. Mainly with Espanyol fans, especially like myself, can be quite bitter towards the FC Barcelona crowd. And maybe the best local derby in terms of bitterness in Spain is actually in Seville, between Real Betis and Sevilla. And that gets really intense during rivalry matchups. But for this rivalry, it's actually quite a friendly one. That's why it feels more like Everton and Liverpool in that sense. They're pretty friendly derby. Family members. Traditionally, they take part in organized events, including a supporters parade known as a Callegera, which is from the city center stadium, and the Berzo Derby, a singing poetry contest between the 2 groups, in the style of the traditional Basque art of singing improvised songs, called the Bertsolarita. And received praise for the relaxed atmosphere of matches. So yeah, this is a very friendly matchup for the fans. Pretty unusual, which is why I actually have the picture of their supporters together. But yeah, this is definitely a really fun and really interesting thing to have. But both clubs have a lot of respect from their fans. So take a look outside the plane for a bit. The scenery out here is just breathtaking. We haven't even got to the Ball Peaks, the Pyrenees. Gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful in the foothills of the Pyrenees. Absolutely cool. So we're going to be going over a bit about the history and stuff. Closer. So to briefly talk about some interesting stuff about the Basque Derby, there's definitely some bits of history and stuff we'll be covering pretty soon. We'll wait a bit and we'll talk about the history of the Basque Derby in a little bit. But before we get to that, I do want to cover some bits of some of the sports stuff going on, just briefly. So, of course, for baseball, the World Series has been going on, and some of you guys can't even believe this, but the Blue Jays are up 3-2. Yes, Toronto. And they have a chance to end the World Series tonight in Toronto. Which, if the Blue Jays were to win the World Series this year, it would be their first title since 1993. It's pretty crazy the fact the Blue Jays haven't won a title in a while. And also, a fun fact: it's also the first season in baseball history to not begin and end in the United States because it started in Tokyo and ends in Toronto. Pretty crazy stuff going on, of course. Absolutely crazy stuff going on. And I did consider the World Series. If it would have been shorter, I would have probably done it. But it's from LA, one side of the country, to one side of the United States, the West Coast, and Toronto's all the way in Canada. Yeah, that's in eastern half of Canada. Yeah, it would have taken forever. I wouldn't want. So that's why we're not doing this game. So that's why we're not doing the World Series. In terms of other sports, the NFL this year, um, the Ravens won. Of course, last week the Colts won again. They absolutely dismantled the Titans. Now the Colts this week are taking on Pittsburgh. There's a good chance Indianapolis can go 8-1 to start the year, which I have no idea why the heck they that good. Yeah, definitely pretty crazy stuff in the NFL. Pretty crazy stuff. The next one is the NHL, actually, for all you ice hockey fans out here. I've been watching the Predators, not doing too badly, though. That being said, they're second for third for the bottom of the division. Not doing too badly. They're just not off to a good start for the Predators. Oh yeah, and one more thing, by the way, for NHL fans, I actually have picked a couple of NHL games that I plan coming up with. Now, it hasn't been officially set in schedule, but the first NHL game we're going to be doing on the schedule this week, um, and a very big one, in fact, first NHL game on our schedule for this series, actually December 5th. That's because we're doing Canadians Maple Leafs on that day. It was a tough choice considering we also have Lakers and Celtics. Lakers versus Celtics, big NBA matchup. Bears and Packers in NFL's oldest rivalry. And we also have in soccer, we have Benfica and Sporting Lisbon in the Eternal Derby of Croatia. This was tough, but it was the only day in the weekend I wanted to do Canadians Maple Leaf. So I wanted to do that rivalry. That's why we're doing it that way. So pretty important stuff going on. Should be a lot of fun, and both teams are quite. The Blue Jays did not have a good start of the year, but their Maple Leafs are inconsistent this year. The Canadians have been very good. Should be a fun matchup. Be a fun one. The of course is going to be Pacers are the second worst team in the East. Uh, they are off to a really bad start. Hurts that Halliburton's got injured, and of course losing Miles Turner absolutely hurts. But yeah, the Pacers are not off to a good start. that covers a bit of the American sports. Hey, Floxtry, happy Halloween, my dude. Good to see you, Flox. I hope you're doing well. Definitely check out my good friend Floxtrot's channel. He makes some really great streams. Of course, he streams later in the night. I stream earlier in the day, of course. So there's that too. We're doing the Bass Derby today. Foxtrot, if you don't know, it's a big soccer matchup in Spain. It's one of the biggest rivalries in Spanish football, of course. Between the two biggest Basque country teams, Real Sociedad and Athletic Club in Bilbao. Of course, there are several big rivalries in Spain. Of course, most of you guys all know El Clasico, may just be the most famous one in the world. Real Madrid and Barcelona, and don't worry, we'll definitely get to El Clasico in this year, or at least this season. We'll definitely do El Clasico. That will definitely 110% happen. Most famous rivalry. Sally, I don't know if we ever do the Seville Derby though. That one's a very big one as well. Very fierce. It's very close. Both of these clubs have rich history. We're doing the Bass Derby, which is the one we're doing today. That's very friendly. Another really absolutely hated derby is in Astoria. Real Oviedo and Sporting Gijon. Another very intense rivalry. Then you have the Madrid Derby, as well with Atletico and Real Madrid. Of course, the Barcelona Derby is the most historic derby, but Barcelona Derby is also very lopsided. There's that tip. Oh, nice. Oh, fantastic. A e-coaching license. Yep. Very cool, Flox. Yeah, I know both these clubs pretty good as well. I'm not really fans of it. Real Sociedad and Real Sociedad. My favorite Spanish club is in Barcelona, actually. It's not FC Barcelona. It's actually the second club in the city. Real Club Deportivo Español in Barcelona. Tentacles. Pretty cool stuff. So talking about a little about the history of Bass Derby for a bit. The first meeting between Athletic Club Bilbao and Real Sociedad, of course, evolved in the 1905 Copa del Rey, where a main league of three teams hosted that time. Host Madrid FC and San Sebastian Recreation Club. Madrid FC is Real Madrid, of course. And the Recreation Club was actually the first club in the city of San Sebastian. After Madrid defeated the Basque teams, Athletic declined to play the dead rubber match between them. Of course, the Federation considers Athletic Club to be the runners-up of the 1905 Copa del Rey. Of course, in 1909, the Recreation Club had evolved into San Sebastian Football Club, but aligned with the Cirque Club Ciclista de San Sebastian to meet with the injury requirements. And they defeated Athletic Club in the opening round and went on to win the trophy of the Copa del Rey. Eventually, those two clubs would eventually merge into Real Sociedad. Club Ciclista is actually the predecessor to Real Sociedad. Then in 1910, the club was renamed Sociedad de Football de San Sebastián. And of course, they also had received royal patronage. And that's because people don't forget, Spain is a kingdom, actually. Not a republic, a kingdom. So, of course, King Alfonso gave them the royal patronage and added the title Real. Become Real Sociedad, which translates to Royal Society of Football, Real Sociedad of Football San Sebastian. That's basically the translation of the language. So, there's that too. However, there was a dispute over the entitlement of Real Sociedad to claim the honor champions, so they held two separate competitions. And turns out, there are two 1910 winners, of course, as well. in 1911, a very big important event happened in the Derby, and that was in 1911. You see, Real Sociedad actually drew the match in protest of accusation from that other teams, particularly their past rivals, Athletic Club, were using ineligible foreign players were rejected. Athletic Club went on to win the trophy without using disputed players, although they did use some of the Atletico Madrid players, which were actually a branch of the older club. This caused the Spanish Federation to introduce a rule in next year's competition that all players must be Spanish citizens. And the crazy thing is that Athletic Club chose to maintain this approach of only using local Basque players. And it's still continued to the 21st century, funnily enough. Real Sociedad had this policy from the late 60s, but dropped in 1989. Of course, in 1913, they held a friendly between the two teams to inaugurate the old stadium of Real Sociedad, Atoxa. A 3-3 draw, and the first goal scorer was, of course, the legendary athletic forward of the age, Pichichi, who also scored in San Mamas as well. But of course, they had been quite a few local competitions, of course, and that takes us to 1934. The top 6 clubs of the region were actually include Athletic and Real Sociedad were involved in the Basque Cup, which ran until 1936, brought into organized football for 3 years due to the Spanish Civil War that happened between Franco and his nationalists, and of course the Republicans. Of course, at the end of the conflict, the regional championships were reinstated for 2 more seasons, with Athletic Club and Real Sociedad being kept apart. So those 2 teams did not actually become part of this for a couple of years. Of course, there was also an attempt for a Basque final in 1969 happened. However, unfortunately, it ended when Elche defeated Real Sociedad before losing to Athletic Club in Madrid in the final. But of course, a big part of their Basque identity, of course, happened in the post-Franco era. See, both these clubs are both very passionate of the Basque identity, and they enjoy a youth system for developing local players. And one big matchup was in 1976, where their captains Ignacio Cordobarra and Jose Angel Arabar basically led the teams displaying the banned Basque flag after the death of General Franco. Of course, Sociedad proved superior on that day, winning 5-0 against Athletic Club. So, pretty important parts, but both these clubs are very proud of their Basque traditions. Of course, in terms of results of this league, in terms of results of Liga matchups, Real Sociedad has 2 main accolades: the longest unbeaten run in the league, 19 matches in the Basque Derby between 1993 and 2000, and 14 straight home wins in the Derby. Athletic holds the record for the most consecutive victories in either city with 7 wins, spanning around the Civil War times. Although both clubs have been very successful, only 5 Derby matchups had taken place where both clubs have finished in the top 5 league positions at the time. And all but one of those was in the 1980s. 1979-80, 81-82, 1987-88, 1997-98, and the 2013-2014. Finally, both teams actually made their way to the 2020 Copa del Rey final. That's right, the first ever Basque Derby showdown in a cup match. Unfortunately, what prevented this from being truly elite would have been COVID-19, when it led to playing in an empty stadium. So they actually eventually played in an empty stadium 350 days later. It was a tough matchup, but in the end, Real Sociedad were victorious, winning the Copa del Rey to give Real Sociedad its first major trophy since 1980. So that is the history of our Basque Derby, everyone, between these 2 big clubs of the Basque Country. It's a really cool derby. It, again, really overshadowed derby this season. Of course, Sociedad and Bilbao are both, Sociedad and Athletic Club are both in the opposite ends of this table. Athletic Club is about top half of the table. Real Sociedad's right at the bottom. Now, an interesting other fun fact about both these clubs as well. Both these clubs are also founders of La Liga. They played their first ever La Liga season. Um, these clubs are both founders of La Liga, and they've both been playing since the first season of back in 1929. Um, so a bit more of La Liga facts as well. Some information. There have been 63 teams deployed in La Liga in the 95 season. Of course, outside of Athletic Club, the other outside of the big three that have never been relegated, the club that's played the most seasons of La Liga without is Valencia. Which, if we look at our map, here's the little map. So Valencia is right down here. This city right here is Valencia, and they play at the Estadio de Mestalla, one of the oldest stadiums in Spain. It's a very cool place. Valencia is a neat city. I would love to visit. They play here, Mestalla. Cool ground. Then outside of that, other two clubs that played the most in Spain is then after that is Atletico Madrid and Real Club Deportivo España. So both these clubs are pretty historic and stuff. Important get through this era. But basically, the 10 clubs that played the most seasons after that is Sevilla with 82, Sociedad with 79. Then with 60 seasons, it's both Celta Vigo and Real Betis. Vigo played the Atlantic coast of Spain. So yeah, those are the 10 clubs that played the most seasons in La Liga. Those 10. In terms of La Liga, the biggest stadium in Spain this year is going to be right now it's the Santiago Bernabeu in Madrid. It hosts 80,000 people. But that will soon be greatly eclipsed when FC Barcelona gets the Camp Nou completed, because that will be 105,000 people. Yes, you heard that right. 105,000 people. Which is actually insane. 105,000 is a lot of people. And the most interesting bit of facts about the Spanish league, of course, in terms of the clubs that have won the most La Liga titles, there's only two big clubs that really won the most titles: Real Madrid with 36 and FC Barcelona with 28. The next club outside of those big two is Atletico, and they only won 11 of them. And then afterwards is Athletic Club with 8, and they still haven't won one since 1984. And of course, fifth is Valencia with 6. Yeah, crazy. It's been dominated by two clubs. We'll talk more about Madrid and Barcelona when we get to El Clasico. Yeah, those two clubs have historically been dominating. We're gonna descend down to Pamplona. We'll slowly descend to Pamplona in Spain. So Pamplona, of course, this historic city in Navarra, Spain's 29th largest city. Of course, many people know that this city is famous worldwide for the running of the bulls. It happens during the San Fermin Festival held in July, between July 6th and 14th. And it was brought to renown with Ernie Hemingway's novel, The Sun Also Rises. Of course, in terms of football, it is home to Osasuna, the Narvaez club to play in Spain's top flight. And that club was founded back in 1920. It's only one of 4 professional clubs to be owned by its members. And of course, they've actually played in the Copa del Rey final twice in 2005 and 23. Their best finishes were fourth place twice. Their full name is Club Atlético Osasuna. Pretty cool stuff. They got some really cool stuff, and of course, they're technically in the Basque Country a bit. It's bordered right next to the Basque country. Pretty neat stuff as well. And they play at the El Sadar, which was actually opened back in 1967. It's around 23,000 people play at El Sadar. 23,000 people. It got a whole new expansion in 2019. It looks really cool. Full stadium. It's a really nice facility, though. Good old Osasuna. Hey, Balmer, good to see you. It's been a while since I've seen you. I'm doing very good. Oh, nice. You got the AMD Ryzen. That's fantastic. You know, Balmer, I'm looking to get my own computer pretty soon. Uh, I know my laptop's pretty nice and all, but it's getting a little older. I got it in 2019. So I'm hoping this Christmas I finally upgrade my system and get something that can help run this sim a bit better. But also, so I can play other games too. So we're gonna finally get down to Pamplona. But one of the big things about Spanish football though is fantastic. So one of the really cool things though about Pamplona, this city was pretty industrialized, and mainly it actually has one of the highest living standards of all of Spanish cities. And some of the main sites here, most famously, it's 14th century Gothic cathedral. The Cathedral of Pamplona is the main landmark of this city, of course, with its different scenery. It also have some military. It's got the plaza as well. It's the main city square. Got quite a few parks. It's also got a famous bullfight ring, Plaza de Toros de Papelona. It's 19,000 people. That's only just slightly smaller than the football. But definitely pretty cool. So we're gonna be flying over Pamplona soon. This here is Pamplona. Pretty cool. This is Pamplona. A little slow. We're gonna send down to 25. This is Pamplona. Pamplona is where we're going. This here is Pamplona. So this here is the city. Here's the city square, of course, the plaza. There's the bullfight ring. This is qualifying ring in Spain. There's the Plaza in Pamplona. Gonna briefly fly over the city. A slower. This is Pamplona. Sorry about that. Sometimes the autopilot. Sorry about that. Just want to make sure. So down below us is Navarra Arena, El Sadar. The El Sadar you see down here, to our left, that is the pre-renovation El Sadar. This was before it got expanded. So that is El Sadar, home of Osasuna. So guys, we're going to prepare for our first landing of the day. Osasuna's home stadium. I'll show you when we land what the stadium actually looks like nowadays. So just, I'll show you what primary stadiums of Spain. Here we go, guys. Our first stop of the day in Pamplona. Beautiful city. Really cool architecture here. I hope you guys like this stream so far. If you want to like this stream and want to follow along, you can smash that follow button. We days a week, Fridays and Sundays, of course. So let's park here and we'll prepare for the next leg coming up soon. So this here is Pamplona's. Park right here very shortly. So I'm going to show you guys about El Sadar. So this is what El Sadar now looks nowadays. So this is a really cool site. Estadios de España. Talk about the stadiums and stuff. But this is El Sadar, what it looks like nowadays. Picture right here. Pretty cool stuff. They built it back in the 60s, and this was what the stadium looked like before the fence and stuff moved up. This was the old pictures. Oh, look. Then they put the tribuna, which was that part of the stands, for 561 million pesetas. They put it around 30,000 people at the time, and that's what the stadium looked like for pretty much of the 1990s and 2000s. Of course, they eventually got massive renovations in the 2010s. and they redeveloped a lot of it, and they now matched as well. It's now 23,000 people. So yeah, that is Estadio El Sidar. That's a little bit of background for Osasuna's home. We'll get up to that pretty soon. So we'll get back up into the air very shortly. If you guys want to join in, Southeast Asia server. We're in um, we're we're in here, and you recommended go around 110, 115, 130 knots. Something that can catch up to this Cessna 172. You guys all more than welcome to come along. Group flights are more than welcome. You guys are always welcome to come along. So we'll get ready for leg number 2. This one's going to be shorter. It's going to be to Victoria Gasteiz. And we'll mainly talk about athletic club. Of course. So we're getting ready for So let's go ahead and prepare for the next leg. You're more than welcome, Bomber. You guys are all more than welcome to come along with us, of course. We're going to go ahead and prepare for the next leg. $276 degrees. It's 5,000 feet for the next leg. So we're going to head over to 5,000. So we're going to talk about the first of the 2 clubs we'll be visiting. We'll be in Bilbao not too long. But we're going to talk about Athletic Club here. You can also call them Athletic Club Bilbao or Athletic Bilbao or simply just Athletic. But whatever you do, do not call them Bilbao because they're very proud of Athletic Club. They're very proud of their name, okay? If you wonder why they're called Athletic Club, even though most others are in Spain, that's because Athletic Club was actually founded by British fans that came into Bilbao back in the 19th century. So that's why, hence, they got the name Athletic Club. English spelling name. They did have to change their name to Atletico Bilbao because of Francisco Franco. But this is a club with an extremely rich history. Dating back to 1898, they're known as the Leoac, the Lions, because they built their stadium near a church called San Mames, which again was named after the early Christian Saint Mames, who was thrown to the lions by the Romans. And of course, they played their matches at the beautiful new San Mames Stadium that was built in 2013. Of course, their colors are the famous red and white stripes with black shorts. Have still been part of the club colors since the 1910s. And they're Spain's 4th most successful club with 8 titles in their name And of course, they've won a whopping 24 Spanish Cup titles, second only to Barcelona. And they're by far the most successful club in the Basque Country. And they're also one of the 3 founding members of La Liga. Is one of 3 founding members of the Primera Division that have never been relegated. So, but of course, the most important thing, and we'll talk about this more in detail, this club is very famous and well known for its youth policy, and they bring in youth Basque players to the ranks. And their official policy is to sign players that are native or trained in the Greater Basque Country, which includes the Biscay, Izapoca, Alava, and Navarra, as in Spain, as well as the Laborde, Sul, and Lower Navarra in France, which is actually where we flew today. So we technically flew in the Basque Country. And it has both admirers and critics even nowadays. So pretty important stuff. Like I said, this club is ripping in history, rightfully so, as one of the important clubs in Spain. Of course, one interesting thing about Athletic Club, I don't want to talk about the history because that would take forever, but yes, they have never been relegated, despite all their youth policy, which is crazy to think about it. Especially in the modern days when players have hundreds of $1 million transfer fees and contracts. The fact they managed to remain at the top level for as long as they have with just signing local talent is pretty insane. The crust incorporates the estuaries of the Bilbao and Biscay as part of the club crust. From the Shul Bilbao, it takes the bridge and church of St. Anton, as well as the wolves from the powerful Haro family. They were founded back in 1300. From the Shul Biscay, they took the Guernica's, which is in Guernica, which we'll be visiting, and the cross of St. Andrew. And it dates back to 1922. Now, of course, this wasn't always the crest they wore, which is actually the crest you see here in the picture. Their first crest was simply a blue circle with the belt letters of AC instead of white. Yes, they were originally blue and white. Then they changed it back in 1910 to red and white, which is the new colors. They're still there today. And then they had one from 1913 that actually was similar to that of Sociedad. But of course, the modern crest we see here today first started in 1922, which is roughly an inverted triangular shield shape with section of red and white stripes and local with teeth. That is still evolved into the crest today you see here today. And you want to see what it looks like? Here it is. Let me get to Athletic Club's website. This is Athletic Club. Thanks. About the club, it's in the identity and all that. Here's the badge. But yeah, the badge is just a modern version of what it was back in 19. Important stuff for athletes. The next thing about Athletic Club, of course, outside of the crest, has been the colors. Of course, they're famous. They're one of the big teams that use red and white stripes. However, they first began wear a white kit back in 1902. They actually became half blue, half white, which was similar to that worn by the English club of Blackburn Rovers. Which, if you guys are aware, Blackburn Rovers, they played in Lancashire. And they were donated by Juan Moser. However, one interesting thing happened in 1909 when a young student in Bilbao spent Christmas in London. He was charged by the club to buy 25 new shirts, but he couldn't find enough. When he was waiting for the ship to be back to Bilbao empty-handed, he realized the colors of the local team Southampton matched the Bilbao city of Bilbao, the red and white. So he bought 50 shirts to take upon him, and when he arrived back in Bilbao, Juan Elderoy, the club directors almost immediately changed it to the red and white colors. Still there since 1910. Pretty cool. And half of those shirts actually then were sent to Atletico Madrid. which at the time was a club branch of Athletic Club. And as a result, the red and white was also used by Atletico Madrid. Pretty cool stuff. Outside of that, the other team that wore red and white was Sporting Gijon. So, pretty cool stuff. That is the story of how Athletic Club got its famous red and colors. And yes, this was a picture back, all the way back in 1910. Yeah, this is black and white, as you can tell. One really neat thing about Athletic Club, and this is unique in the world, and that unique in the world is not just because that unique in the world is not just a slogan. It's actually a very real thing, and the thing that sets Athletic Club apart is its signing policy. That's why I put the picture of unique in the world up here, because it is unique. They're one of only a handful of clubs with a unique signing policy across the globe. And they have an unwritten rule that the club can only sign players who were born in the Basque Country or learn their skills at a Basque club. Um, this town is mainly because of Basque nationalism. You see, the Basques have always been have been integrated into Spain in years, and they have their own separate language and identity compared to the rest of Spain. So, as a result, it's been seen as the idealization of local talent. For promoters, people praised it for local talent and brought in a lot of local talent compared to that of the modern day. However, nowadays there's also criticism of being very discriminatory. That being said, that rule does not apply to the coaching staff, including managerial positions are eligible for non-Basque, both from other regions of Spain in the world. And basically, it arose from the um from the 1911 Copa del Rey dispute between them and Real Sociedad, when the Spanish Federation did a competition, a rule for all most people must be Spanish citizens. Athletic Club um, retained its policy of Basque players. But yes, it's a big part of Athletic Club's history. Another interesting thing about the signing policy is that Athletic Club, due to all this, Athletic Club was also the last La Liga club to actually have a black player because of low immigration as well. And the first black player to be part of Athletic Club was Jonas Ramalho, whose parents were Angolan, and he played all the way in 2011. Yes, they've been playing for a lot for that. Nowadays, there's more and more players of African origin in the Basque are now playing in Athletic Club, including the Williams brothers of Aniki and Nico. Well, so pretty important stuff for Athletic Club. But but like I said, the Basque region policy is what really separates Athletic Club from basically every other club in Spain, if not the rest of Europe. Really different. But the fact they have never been relegated for all these years, despite having that policy, is pretty crazy to think about. In fact, Bilbao's worst placement was back in 2007. They went 17th, I believe. Yeah, that was their lowest position ever. Was 17th. Yeah, 17 was their lowest position ever, and they were very lucky to not get relegated. They were only 1 point above relegation, which is crazy. So, pretty important stuff for Athletic Club, of course. In terms of honors, this club is very successful. 8 La Liga titles, 24 Copa del Reyes. They took home the Spanish Super Cup 3 times in their club history. They even won several regional honors in the past, mainly the Basque Championships stuff. However, Athletic Club have never won a European competition. And the reason being they have not yet to win Europe is ultimately because you guys realize the Basque policy is also its own greatest nemesis, too. While it's led Athletic Club to never be relegated, because they can only get parts of the Basque region, they can't get the elite talent from other parts of not just Spain, but the world. That really limits them in the long term. That's why they haven't won anything in Europe, despite all those years of successes. Speaking of which, being on bot, sorry about that. We got a bit of a bot infestation. And have those in the. So, we're now flying to the foothills. This is an absolutely gorgeous region here. Northern Spain, it should absolutely be gorgeous. Of course. We're about to arrive in Victoria very soon for a second stop, of course. In the last slide for Athletic Club, we definitely want to speak. Is, of course, the next slide is the historic stadium here for Athletic Club, San Mamés. So, San Mamés, built back in 2013, seats 53,000 people. It's an absolute gorgeous stadium. It's one of the prettiest stadiums in all of Spain. We should do that when we fly to San Mamés. Replace the old stadium as the home of Athletic Club. The largest stadium in the Basque region and the 7th largest in Spain. But one really cool thing about this stadium, of course, is the unique tradition of the stadium. It's actually a club tradition for captains of team visiting Athletic for the first time ever, pay homage to the fallen idol of Pichichi. They leave a bouquet of flowers at the bust of the player. And this tradition has been carried on ever since for decades. Of course, they also had to expand the roof a bit because of all the rain and stuff. But it's a really cool stadium. One of the nicest in Europe. Amazing ground. And then here are some notable players. And despite the fact they've only recruited from the Basque Country, they have several important players throughout the club's history. They have plenty of famous players over the years played for Athletic Club. Some of the most notable stars and legends. Of course, one of the bigger ones, we have Jose Angel Iribar. You have the Williams brothers of Inaki and Nico. You have Telmo Zarra, one of the most well-known goalkeepers of Athletic Club's rich history. He's the namesake of the Zarra Trophy. The namesake of the Zarra Trophy. Of course, probably the greatest Athletic Club player, Pichichi. His real name is Rafael Moreno Aranzani. Giorgio Blasco, Oscar Di Mauro, Donny, and a modern player, Ohan Sunset, are some of the most famous players of Athletic Club the iconic players of football. That gives us, and that is our slides for Athletic. We're going to descend down to 3,000. Go ahead and descend down. Descend down to 3,000 feet. So we're actually in Vitoria-Gasteiz is going to be our next city. Vitoria-Gasteiz, by the way, is located in part of the Basque Country as well. It is one of the major. It's the second largest city in the Basque Country, behind Bilbao. 245,000 people. Vitoria-Gasteiz is a dynamic city with strengths in healthcare, aeronautics, automotive industry, and wine culture. It has some of the best preserved medieval streets and plazas in the region, and there are two big cathedrals here in the city. And it also has a very high standard of living and lots of cultural landmarks, most famously with all the different wineries. Lots of wineries, architects, and more. And of course, in terms of sports, Vitoria-Gasteiz is home to the Spanish club Deportivo Alaves, founded back in 1921. The third biggest, most successful team in the Basque Country. And they play at the 19,000-seater Mendizorroza Stadium, which is actually the third oldest stadium in Spain. Very small, but the fans are very passionate here, so Alaves are definitely pretty important. So pretty cool stuff. You're more welcome. Let's see if anyone's flying along with us. I fixed this issue on the Friday stream, of course. We're about to approach. So before we get into Vitoria-Gasteiz, I do want to show you a bit of San Mamés itself. So here's a bit more background for San Mamés. So this here is a new one that built back in 2013. Absolutely gorgeous stadium. The exterior looks amazing. It's an absolutely gorgeous stadium. Prettiest in. And it replaced the old San Mamés. Really cool stuff. But the old stadium, and here's the old stadium that it replaced. This was the old San Mamés that lasted for over 100 years. The old one back in 2013. This is San Mamés. Built back in 1913. This was a painting back in the old days. This is what San Mamés used to look like, the old one, with the old painting and stuff. This is a really cool website. So if you want to look at Spanish grounds, this is a really good site for it. Yeah, imagine that's what soccer looks like back in the old day. Now Olympic grounds and stuff as well. This stadium was the first purpose-built football stadium in Spain, by the way. But yeah, look at all these old pictures. Pichichi had the old San Mamés in 1913. X. Yeah, you can see some of these old pictures. There's what it looked like in the 30s. In 1947, post-Spanish Civil War. And then it expanded a lot more in the 1950s. A double-decker stand. And it continued to be built up over the next couple of decades. And there is of its year before it turned. And that was the end of what San Mamés used to back in. Let me pause it for a second. That's what San Mamas eventually looked like by the time of the club's demolition. Yeah, it's an old ground, rich in history, lots of tradition here. San Mamas, it's a stadium very much linked to it. So here's Victoria Gasteiz, our next city. I'm going to slow down a bit. That is my gamer tag. Here's my gate. This is Victoria Gasteiz. You're more than welcome, Balmer. So here we go, guys. This is downtown Victoria Gasteiz. So this is Deportivo Alaves' ground, the third oldest stadium in Spain. No worries, Balmer. Yeah, there's the stadium for Deportivo Alaves. So we're about 85 nautical miles from our last stop. So in terms of other league stuff going on here as well, in the La Liga table, by the way, this year's La Liga title, Real Madrid just beat Barcelona El Clasico. So that means Real Madrid's 27 points. Barcelona is second. Third is Spain's Villarreal. From a really good year for Villarreal. They've been a really great club over the last couple of years. Then we have fourth, Atletico Madrid. Fifth is, of course, my favorite Spanish club, RCD Espanyol, with 18 points. That's the top five of Spain this year. Pretty crazy. Espanyol to qualify for Europe. So let's go ahead and prepare for the here at Victoria Gasteiz. So there is our second stop of the day in Victoria-Gasteiz. So a bit of interesting information about athletic clubs. So here is the website for athletic club, by the way. So of course they have a huge international fan base outside of it. A lot of it is a lot of the Basque players. A lot of people from the Basque diaspora are a big part of athletic club's fan base. They got clubs all over, not just in the Basque region. They got fan clubs all over the world, including all over the rest of Spain, because a lot of Basque people moved around too. And yes, there are even fan clubs the rest of the globe. Apparently, they got fan clubs in Korea, Mexico, Japan, and even a few in the United States. There's even one in the United States. There's even two in the USA. They got a couple in the United States. Yes, athletic club. They got a big fan base. Huge. And of course, the one that you guys want to do at athletic club, definitely want to go to the Sam Mamas DME and tour. I want to do that um because you want to because they got a really great, not only a really stadium, you also want to do the tour. You want to go to the museum as well. The museum looks really cool. Ever get the chance to visit, you can go to the museum and stuff. It's really, yeah. That is athletic club for really neat club. Very unique in the world, not just in Spain, but the world. So we got one last leg coming up with you guys today. Our last leg is going to be covering Real Sociedad. We're also going to be heading our way to Bilbao. So, we're going to be flying to. We're going to climb 5,000 feet. Go ahead and prepare for the. I want to go ahead and complete the flight up to. Hey, Kata, good to see you. I hope you're doing well, Kata. So we're going to talk about Real Sociedad, the other Basque club. Now, Real Sociedad is another historic club. They're also founders of La Liga. In Basque, they're known as Irala. Um, Now, this Spanish club was founded back in September 7th, 1909. They play at the Anita Stadium here. Um, their nickname, there are two big nicknames. Xuri Urdin, the White Blues in Basque. The other is La Real, the Royal One. Their name literally translates to Real Sociedad, Real Royal Society. They won on for winning the league title back in back-to-back years in 1981 in 1981-82 season. They finished up runner-up 3 separate times. They've also are three-time winners of the Copa del Rey. And historically, they did follow a policy similar to that of its rival. However, that tradition was broken back in 1909 when they signed Republic of Ireland for John Aldridge. And that being said, there's still a strong Basque contingent in the players, and it's still a very important part of its youth academy. In fact, its youth academy has still been very successful and still produced world-class players, mainly Xabi Alonso and Antoine Griezmann. They've also participated in the Champions League 5 separate times. And the farthest they went was, of course, the 81-82 edition, where they went into the semifinals, only to lose to the eventual winners, Hamburg. But this club has a really long history. They are also founders of La Liga. In 1929, they were the founders of La Liga, along with a couple of other clubs that founded La Liga. Some pretty cool stuff. Real Sociedad, a club with a lot of history. Of course, they play at the Anita Stadium now. A crazy thing about the Anita Stadium, Anita is actually pretty big. It's around 40,000 people. And this stadium was built back in 1993. It's the 11th largest stadium in all of Spain. The exterior concourse features a bust of the late club manager of the early 80s, Alberto Omarxida. And now this stadium is pretty different though compared to what it is now. Originally it had a racing track built into it. But of course they finally developed it in the 1915. The largest stadium, they removed the racing track, athletics track, and they turned into now a very proper facility. Really great facility for football matches. Actually, really cool. Here's what the Anita Stadium looked like in the past. Let me get back. So Anita Stadium. Here it is, Sociedad. This is Anita Stadium, what it looks like now. But when the stadium was first built, this is what Anita looked like. Yes, it had a racing track. You know why that's a bad thing when you do a stadium like that? It's a bad thing because it brings fans far away from the pitch. They did that because they had to do it for European Junior Athletics Championships. That's why they built the track there. But of course, it definitely looked like that. It just wasn't really a great place to watch a game. Like fans are far away from the pitch and all that. But thankfully they renovated it and it now is a modern facility. However, this is very different from the stand they moved from. Because if you thought, I mean, Yataxa was their original ground back in the 1910s. It was this place right here, Taxa. They played here from 1913 to 1992. And yes, it is very different. Whereas the Real Stadium Arena was known for being big and massive, Ataxa, it is cramped. It is small. It was cramped. It was very small. It was very intimidating, and there was a lot of atmosphere in the old ground. Ataxa was a very small stadium. Not a lot of people. But it felt more like an English ground compared to what a Spanish is. But it's an old ground. That's what it looked like back in '82. It's small. It looks like more like one of the English stadiums than a modern La Liga ground. Yeah, very important stuff. It's a neat little ground, a lot of history, such. Thank you. Thanks for putting in my general channel, Flox. Thank you for that. Very nice. So, pretty big stuff going on this weekend. So that covers a bit about the stadiums and stuff. Spanish clubs, of course. So, of course, Real Sociedad's colors. I mean, the club's name literally means Royal Society, hence the name in Spanish. When Spain became a republic during this time, they since it outlawed any royal titles, it became known as Donostia Club de Football. And of course, it was rechanged back in 1939 after the Spanish Civil War. Of course, the club's nicknames is Giralda or the Texuri Urdin, the white and blues, because that's the colors of Real Sociedad and the colors from the flag of San Sebastian. Be surprised by this, but Real Sociedad's got a pretty sizable fan base too, not just in Spain, but not just say it locally, but also around Spain. So this is their honors, 2 La Liga titles. They've won the second division 3 times. Time Copa del Rey winners. They took home a Spanish Super Cup in 1982 and won a few regional championships. And yes, they did put the A part of it because that was the forerunner won one of them. So as Real Sociedad, they won 2 as Real Sociedad. 1909 one was its forerunner, Club Ciclista de San Sebastian. And finally, for the last slide for today, there are some no longer football players. So Alberto Guedes, Jesus Maria Saturisky, Mikel Orzabal is their best current player so far and most well known. However, their all-time greatest player is Luis Arconada. He is the well-known goalkeeper, their most famous player. Then you have your 2 major academy players, Antoine Griezmann. He now plays for Atletico Madrid. Then you have Xabi Alonso, who was developed through the academy, and he played for Real Madrid, and he's now become a really successful coach. He got his first major notarized coach at Bayer Leverkusen in Germany, and now he's now the manager at Real Madrid, biggest club in the world. Then the last 2 is Jesus Maria Zamora and Roberto Lopez Ufarte are the major players of Real Sociedad. Ooh, happy Halloween. So that covers our slides for today's game day flights. In terms of La Liga matchup this week, there have been a couple of interesting ones this week. There were some interesting games I picked, but I chose the local derby today since there really wasn't any great matchups. I didn't want to do all Premier League because the other match this week there really isn't too many major matches. For example, other matchups they have Spurs and Chelsea, but I had a particular game in mind for Spurs, which is the North London derby. Leverkusen Munich was also a pretty big one as well, and Real Madrid Valencia were other games I could have picked. But I ultimately settled with the Basque Derby since, again, derby matchups are probably more important for me than. I rather have the Basque Derby than Valencia Real Madrid, especially when you have the Madrid Derby and El Clasico to consider for Real Madrid. So that's why I ultimately picked the choices I did. So that's why I picked that for Spain. And of course, there really isn't too many good matchups for Premier League as well. I could have done Chelsea Spurs as well. That was also a big matchup, but I'd rather pick an actual derby. It's not every day I get to do a local derby between 2 founding members of La Liga. Like I said, I picked mainly rivalry matches. So that's why I'm taking extra weight to that game. that's why I picked. So we're going to go down to Bilbao for a bit. So we're finally in Bilbao. So a bit of information about Bilbao, the largest city in the Basque Country, 347,000 people. It's the 11th largest city in Spain, the largest in the northern region of Spain. It's also the fifth largest urban area in the country. Bilbao was founded all the way. Bilbao is well known for being a very industrialized city. In fact, it's the second most industrialized region in Spain behind Barcelona. And it was founded in the 13th century by Diego Lopez Vidijara and was the commercial hubs of the Basque Country. Nowadays, Bilbao has went through a lot of change in the 20th century. It's now a service city that has gone through a lot of growth. Mainly, it's world famous for the iconic Guggenheim Museum. I'll take a picture of that when we say mamas. And of course, the football club. Athletic club is the most famous part of it. But Bilbao is a great city. Tons of really cool museums. Of course, lots of festivals and events. Of course, you can't go wrong with the cuisine in the Basque region. Especially, first, pintos. Which are very popular small foods. Very popular. Yes? This is Bilbao. Welcome to Bilbao in Spain. This is the beautiful Spanish city of Bilbao. Absolutely gorgeous city. Around this area is the Old Town. Guys, this is the Old Town of Bilbao coming up. This is the Old Town of Bilbao. There's the famous bridge of the church, part of the club's crest. Here in beautiful Bilbao. So we're going to go around Bilbao. There's the Bilbao Airport. So really cool bridges and stuff here. There is the world famous Guggenheim Museum down here. So we're going to, for a bit, suck around this city for a bit. Check out the beautiful in Bilbao. Beautiful city here. Bilbao is gorgeous. This here is the Guggenheim Museum, the famous bridge in the city. This is the Guggenheim, very well-known art museum. Got some really cool art. It's definitely the most popular tourist attraction in. What? A car hit 37,000 feet? Are you pranking Typhon? Here it is, guys. This is the Estadio San Mames, home of Athletic Club. Beautiful stadium here in Bilbao. So this is San Mames. absolutely gorgeous. Bilbao is so pretty. That is Bilbao in Spain. We're going to go ahead and fly back. Climb up to. Back. That is Bilbao. Absolutely beautiful city. Oh my gosh, it is real. What? How on earth did it get to 37,000 feet? How the friggin' heck did that happen? It broke 7,000 feet more than the last one. How on earth did that even happen? Carbon Cub UL reached. In ideal winter conditions from Los Angeles. Outside air temperature, negative 51 degrees. Negative 51. They did a turbocharged Rotax 916 engine. Insane though. Nuts. I did not expect 37,000 feet. That's ridiculous. Thanks for sharing that, Typhon. I know, it's crazy. So we're going to get into Guernica next. So Guernica will be our next place here. So Guernica is also in the Basque Country as well. Guernica is well known for being the site where the Germans bombed it during 1937, the Guernica bombing. It was one of the first aerial bombings in warfare, and it inspired the famous Picasso's painting of Guernica, his famous painting in back 1937, the most powerful anti-war painting in history, making his outrage of the attack in the city. But Guernica definitely well known, importantly culturally wise for the Basque. Mainly, it's the trees in this area is a symbol of peace um, for wars. Yeah, Guernica definitely a pretty cool city. It's a pretty important part of the Basque country. That is where we're going to be going. Crazy. So we're going to go to. So this is Guernica coming up. So I'm going to show you a bit about Real Sociedad from the website. So we're going to visit Real Sociedad's website. This is Real Sociedad. Blue and whites. You got pretty cool stuff here. The menus in the left. Talks a bit about the club history and stuff. Yeah, they got a history back in the 1910s. Got a bit of their history and stuff. They got videos of periods in Sociedad's history. Pretty long one. of Sociedad. Really cool club, a lot of history, of course. Got a lot of historical archive stuff, but mainly for a lot of the registered users to learn more about the club's history. They also got a museum here too, where you can check out the history of Real Sociedad, as well as you can do the stadium tours of Real Arena. If you do a stadium tour, it's around €6, which is pretty cheap, something like that. They do have supporters groups as well, but it's nowhere near as big as Bilbao's Athletic Club's fan. Sociedad's fan base is mainly in Spain. But mainly their group is not so much around the world. So, pretty big stuff here. They also have other sports too, including athletics, Lota, which is their main sport in the Basque Country. More. Of course, you can also take a tour for the arena too. What's included in the tour? They got a 360 immersive experience of the powerful anthem of the stadium. They visit their spaces. But basically, the itinerary, you go through gate 0. Then from there, you go into the second part, the auditorium, inside indoor parking, and you go to the tunnel with trophies and the players who played 500 games at Sociedad. Then you visit the field, the players' field, and you go into the mixed zone up here. Conference room. That is the presidential box, the most prestigious seats in the stadium. And then 10th is the official shop at Real Sociedad. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, this back there is Guernica. This was very well known for being the bomb. We're gonna go ahead and turn right. I'm gonna try it realigned back in properly. So Sociedad, and finally, of course, you have the store too. And finally, the last thing about Sociedad for a bit is the store. So you got lots of kits, of course, the famous blue and white kits of Real Sociedad. Well known blue and white. Famous blue and white kits of Sociedad. One of the things I always get here is, of course, the scarves. Really cool blue and white scarves for Sociedad. Some of them probably have the Basque flag on it. The Icarina, the Basque flag. Pretty cool stuff. Then Athletic Club has their own stuff too. Just briefly looking at of Athletic Club. They got their own accessories too. Some pretty cool stuff. But Athletic Club, definitely a really cool sporting club. That is going to cover a bit about Real Sociedad and Athletic Club for a bit. So that basically is the last bits of information we'll cover here. We'll talk about San Sebastian pretty soon. We arrive at the Spanish home city. This might be one of the most beautiful cities in San Sebastian. We arrive here in 20 miles. I hope you guys enjoy this stream. So, I've had a ton of fun here with you guys. Thank you all so much for coming here today. I love this. I love the game day stuff. I have so much passion with it. I love it. So, by the way, if you guys want to know what Spanish club I follow, by the way, and don't worry, I'll find a way to cover them at some point. Maybe I can find it. If nothing else is good, I'll do my club. This here is the club I support in Spain. And I'll be visiting there in Barcelona. Real Club Deportivo Español de Barcelona. Yes, Barcelona's second club in Barcelona. But a bit of tidbit about RCD Español. Founded back in 1900. They just celebrated their 125th anniversary just 3 days ago. This club is played for 8 the La Liga, which is the same number of seasons as Atletico Madrid. But I know some pretty fun facts about Espanyol. First off, of course, the famous white and blue colors they wore. They didn't wear those originally. They wore yellow and black. Secondly, RCD Espanyol was the first club in Spain to be founded by Spanish fans of the game. All the other clubs were mainly founded by people outside of Spain. Not just Athletic Club, but also Real Madrid. Also founded by other Spaniards include Sevilla, was another one founded by Scottish. Scots helped found Sevilla FC, and the local rival Barcelona was founded by a Swiss man. Yes, the Swiss founded Barcelona. But Espanyol, it was founded by actual Spaniards. So Espanyol actually was founded by locals. They are the most historic club to never win the La Liga title. They won 4 Copa del Rey titles in 1929, 1940, 2000, and 2006. They're a historic club. Espanyol. They also play in a really nice stadium too. The RCD East Stadium is one of Spain's most modern facilities. It's a super nice ground. 40,000 people, in fact. One of the bigger ones in Spain. And I'm hoping I can do the tour so I can show you guys all the pictures of Espanyol. So this is Ibar. Ibar plays here, their ground, but yes, they actually currently in the second tier, but this is SB Ibar. Try to climb it 3,500. So, pretty cool stuff. And if I had to ask the greatest player Espanyol's ever had, I'm going to say it's probably Ricardo Zamora. He's their greatest all-time player. They have the entire Zamora trophy named after him. And if I ask more modern player, Raul Temudo played a big part in both of 2 of the 4 Copa del Rey titles Espanyol's won. So yes, Espanyol, definitely a historic club. They just celebrated 125th anniversary. It's just the real shame is that Espanyol are overlooked, sadly. I mean, they are a very overlooked. Despite the fact they've been historically a very significant one, in fact. Despite being it makes sense considering, as an Everton supporter as well, I know the feeling. Because you have to share the same city with a much bigger club. In Espanyol's case, that so happens to be FC Barcelona. So, I know how that feels. And I think some people in the United States feel too. Like, for example, imagine Oregon. In a case like Foxtrot, you live in Oregon, you so happen to be an Oregon State fan, having to live in the shadow of a bigger University of Oregon, per se. So, I think you guys can probably understand that. It's tough. It's not easy. But if you're a diehard fan, it also gives you a lot of respect. There you go. So of course, our next game day flight, this will be the last one until I leave in November 15th. But our next game day flight will take us to South America. Actually, that's right. There really isn't a lot of good college games this week. So in fact, we picked only one, but it had to be one game. Our next game is also another soccer match, except this might just be the biggest rivalry in the Americas, if not probably the world's most intense rivalry. Yes, we're heading to Argentina next Friday. We're going to be heading to Buenos Aires, tackle the two biggest clubs in Argentina, Boca Juniors and River Plate. If you thought El Clasico was intense, you have not seen anything like this before. There's a really great documentary of this rivalry. I'll post it when we get to. But Boca Juniors versus River Plate, these two clubs absolutely. These two clubs absolutely hate each other. It's called the Super Classico. But these two clubs really hate each other. And to understand how much these two. So it is unquestionably going to be the game. And so should be a lot of fun. So very excited to show you guys that rivalry. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, things are much different. We're going to go ahead and descend down to. We're going to go visit Donostia St. Sebastian today. This city is located in the Basque region, Spain. It's located on the Bay of Biscay, 20 miles from the Spanish France-Spain border. Population 180,000. Locals call it Donostia, while Spaniards call it San Sebastian. This city is most well known for its for tourism, as San Sebastian has long been known as a very popular tourist destination. It's hosted events, including its own film festival and jazz festival. Of course, San Sebastian historically has been around since antiquity. But of course, the modern city was not founded until 1014. But of course, what the city really grew into the tourist place it was today was during the 19th and 20th century. And it became a very popular tourist destination for decades. The beautiful scenery around this area. Tourism is a big part of its economy. There's a lot of different reasons for this. One of the big reasons this is such a popular area is because you have the old town as well. But of course, it's the beaches where this place really shines. Is beaches. Beaches is what really brings the place a lot more. Beaches here are absolutely gorgeous. They have some amazing views of the city. It's also a great place for all the foodies. It's Basque cuisine here in San Sebastian, probably the best in the region. And there's a lot of Michelin star restaurants. In fact, it's the second most Michelin stars per capita in the world behind Kyoto. So lots of great restaurants here. Foodies love it. Great place for a lot of outdoors and stuff. History. San Sebastian has a lot to offer as a great place. Beautiful city. Also, this area is popular for surfing. Surfing is very popular here in the city. Spiritual stuff. That is St. Sebastian area. That will be our final stop. let's go ahead and get our way to San Sebastian very soon. So here it is, guys. We finally made it to San Sebastian. So San Sebastian's here. Here's San Sebastian, everyone. Welcome to the northern part of the Basque region. It's a gorgeous city. Hope you guys love the scenery here today. The scenery's been outstanding in this breathtaking. Here it is, guys. Here it is, guys. The beautiful city of San Sebastian. Buenos dias, San Sebastian. Absolutely gorgeous city. What a gorgeous. So here it is, guys, San Sebastian. Here is the Real Arena, home of Real Sociedad. I know the picture quality isn't good. There's no satellite gas. Go. So here we go, San Sebastian here. Here it is. finally made it. Here it is. So we're about to land in beautiful San Sebastian Airport. Here it is, guys. Last stop. Yes, we're right on the border of France. We're actually technically not very far from the very famous French resort of Berat. Here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this flight. This is absolutely gorgeous. This meeting today has been lovely. In terms of other leagues as well, Everton will be back this week. They got a tough one. They suffered a huge loss of Spurs last. Yikes! And now they're going to be back Monday night against Sunderland. Not looking forward to that one. Sunderland have been exceed all expectations. Start the year. And we're down. Welcome to San Sebastian Airport here in Spain. So that's it, everyone. Made it. That concludes our flight for today. Guys, that is it, everyone. I hope you had a beautiful time here today in northern Spain. This was a lot of fun, of course. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back in Colorado Sunday. We'll be visiting Mesa Verde National Park. We're gonna go ahead and say hello to MSFS official for the flight. So I hope you all have a great start of your weekend, guys. Take care, everyone, and see you all again soon. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.